Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared. My lovely wife Kara is at work, and in this video we are doing the review on the Nomad 2.0 and the Nomad Framelock. The Spiral I already have a review on, so go check that out if you want to see that. We do have a lot to get into, but before we get into the good and bad, I have to go over something. So not that long ago, I sent one of my Asher knives in from the second batch. I believe it was the second batch, for testing to see if the S35VN was S35VN, and I sent to LTK. He asked me if he could test it. I sent it in over there. He's probably going to tell his side of the story on it, so I sent it in, and it came back as D2. So as devastating as that was, we both agreed that we didn't think that Asher, or at least from my point of view, I didn't think Asher knew anything about it. He contacted Asher and let him know. Asher contacted me and was just devastated. I honestly don't think he knew because, he sources the steel, so it's not like he's making it. So, obviously his steel vendor had lied to him, and he asked us to kind of, wait for a second, let him get everything figured out and before we release the information. Which, is totally understandable. Obviously, he wants to take care of, whoever got a bad one, yada, yada. So, he gets back to me, and basically one of his vendor, where he gets, his steel from, ran through some hard times and basically screwed him over. Screwed him over on a batch of steel that was supposed to be S35VN and was D2. So, Asher he's already got all the replacements for anybody who got a batch from basically the second run. They can send it in. He'll replace the blade. It's approximately 200 blades, 2 to 250, something like that. He might have gotten a little extra to make sure. I'm not positive on the exact number, but it's right around there. So I know this seems like a really, really bad thing, but I honestly don't think it really is, because it really shows the integrity of Asher Knives and what he's trying to do. He kept me updated the entire time. He is taking care of it in every way possible that you can expect a company to take care of something like this. Is it something that sucks? Yes, it does suck, but I think I don't ever think of a problem on a knife as that big of an issue if the company is willing to fix it. And a company really shows their integrity when they put forward how much effort they're going to put forward into fixing a problem if it's their fault. And in all honesty, I'm very impressed with how he dealt with the situation. That tells me that he takes his company not only serious, but the community serious and the people that use his knives serious. He was never trying to deny, push blame, or anything like that. He literally tried to do everything possible that he could to make it right. And that's all we can ask for. And if anything, from a knife company's aspect, he's gained my respect 100%. I think that's a great thing to see from the community of knife makers or knife designers or knife anything, because we are a tight-knit group. So to make sure that the integrity is at the highest, is very important. And I think if anything, we should all give him a round of applause almost in a way, and definitely show support for a company that's willing to go the bounds to make sure. You can definitely, he's going to be out of pocket, right? He's definitely going to be out of pocket. He's the one that's going to wind up biting the bullet, and he's willing to. So that shows a lot. And like I said, I think that shows that we should definitely support a company like that. We should definitely try to encourage behaviors like that. We've seen in the past where companies weren't so friendly, if you know what I mean. So let's get into these two knives. I'm sorry I rambled so much, but if you do have a knife from right around the first or second batch, you might want to get home. Most likely, your knife is fine, and especially if you've gotten it anytime recently. He's been testing everything that's coming in and out of his shop now. I mean, once he gets it, he's getting it tested, and then when it leaves, I don't know if he's doing it twice, but it's not coming in or out of his shop without being tested. I know that, and he even sent me the testings on these ones just to make me feel better about it. And like I said, he's already got the blanks ready to replace anybody's knives from that certain batch. Okay, let's get into this. So we have the access lock here. I'm going to get into the access lock first. So the difference between the Nomad and the Nomad 2.0 is the Nomad 2.0 is on bearings. The Nomad was on phosphor bronze washers. And the action is incredible on this knife. But I did have a little issue when I was fidgeting with it. I noticed every once in a while it would kind of hang up a little bit and feel a little weird. So I did take it apart, took it apart and found out one of my bearings was a little messed up. And I'll show you a picture of what it looked like after taking it apart. I took it apart. It came apart just fine. The hardware seems pretty good. Took it apart, and the bearings, you know, one side wasn't that great. So I contacted Asher, and he immediately sent me another bearing, or another set of bearings to replace them with. And after replacing them, it is back to tip-top. The action is incredible. In my opinion, it's better than the original. Now, mine did smooth out pretty good. After, you know, a while of fidgeting, you know, even when I first got it, it was pretty decent, but it, you know, access locks on bearings, they're so fidgety and it just works so good. So I do like the one on the bearings a lot. Now, this does have an incredibly thin blade stock, and it cuts very, very well. It gets down to about 15 thousandths behind the edge, and because of the neutral ergos, you know, you can hold it in any position when cutting. It cuts very well. I mean, it just blazes through materials. Now, this one I haven't sharpened yet, and we're going to talk about the other one, because the other one, I had a little problem with the choil. This choil is just fine. I can tell it will sharpen up just fine. But I did not sharpen it yet. I have been using it, but I haven't sharpened it yet. And I also did lose a lot of footage that was supposed to be in this video, and I apologize. Normally, I know I show lots of testing, and I show lots of all kinds of stuff, but in this one, I'm not going to have as much. But yeah, the choil seems good. It seems like it'll sharpen up just fine. The geometry is really nice, and the ergos are very neutral and very good. It feels great in the hand. The clip, you know, it has it goes down to thinner, and it's nice and comfortable in the hand. Sometimes when you get these clips that round out like that, they sometimes can bug your hand right here. This one's very comfortable because it kind of widens out, so it's not so narrow. Now, in and out of the pocket, I didn't have no issues with it in and out of the pocket. I'd rather if it had flat screws. I didn't really ever have an issue with the screws too much, but you know, when you do have screws that pop up like that, it just asks for issues. But I didn't run into any. I would like to see some flat screws right there. But I love the stone washed clip. It looks really good. It matches the blade really good. Now, back to the action really quick. You see how far these protrude? I like that. You can really get a good grip on them. You know, unlike the bug out, which was kind of, you know, a little bit sunk in there. These are really grippy. They're real easy to grip, and it just works really good. The lockup is rock solid. And after taking it apart and putting it back together, it, you know, they're a little finicky putting the access locks back together. But once it was back together, I just tightened it down, and it went right to rock solid, and the action was amazing. Like, I didn't have to sit there and adjust it or anything like that. I was very happy to see that, because usually you have to sit there and adjust them, and in this case, I did not have to. But the G10 seems like it's done very well. It's got a little bit of grippiness, but not too grippy, but it, you know, it locks on in your hand. I really like the grips and the way this thing cuts. The utility cuts, it cuts really good. It does have a nice acute tip, so no issues with the way that the tip performs. These are not hard use knives. They're EDC knives, you know, / work knives, and they work really good for that. You notice how the clip switches from right to left, so you do have a little plate there for, you know, to, you know, cover up the hole, because this does inset in. I do like to see that, so that's awesome that it insets in to the G10. So yeah, all in all, great knife. I do like the knife, and it carries very well in the pocket, like I said, and it cuts very well. So it does exactly what a knife should do. Now let's get to the next one. So now this one's got a couple more issues than that one. So let's just get right into it. And like I said, I lost some of the content. I did sharpen this one. I did use this one. I used this one pretty extensively. Now, let's talk about the geometry really quick. So the blade stock thickness is basically the same thing, or is the same thing, very thin behind the edge. Was pretty much the same. It was a little tiny bit thicker, but not much. I mean, it's the same, but the blade isn't as tall. If you look here, you can see the blade isn't quite as tall. I did sharpen this one though. Then you notice the sharpening choils are different, because I did wind up, hopefully I got a picture and I could insert some videos in this, because like I said, I did sharpen it and I added a choil. Now I might have some of the sharpening the content, but I lost the adding the choil in there. But I basically just took a Dremel. I took a Dremel with a diamond bit, and you can see what I did. It's just a circle bit, and I took my Dremel, took my diamond bit, and turned it on, and I put a little choil in there, because after sharpening, it did have a bit, it hit the plunge grind. They didn't really have much of a choil here. It just kind of rounded to it, and it was a bad choil in my opinion. I'd like to see a better choil there, so I cut my own choil in. Let's talk about the action. So the action's really good on these. This is also on bearings. They use the same bearings, and it is very smooth. Nice access to the lock bar. It does have a little bit of a cutout, as you can see, and it works really good. The reverse flick is nice. The detent is right there, which you never have to really worry about. It's a thumb stud action, so they're almost always past the detent, but you never fumble around with the detent with this. The detent is pretty clicky. It hangs in there pretty good. No lash or anything like that. And then you have good access to the thumb stud. It raises up really good, and you have this little cutout there, so good access to it. The blade shape and cutting performance is basically the same as that one, but this is a little thinner, as you can see, a lot thinner, the Framelock version, and so it's not as comfortable in the hand as the Axis Lock, but it's still a very neutral grip, so it's going to be thinner in the pocket, thinner in the hand, and it still has basically the same amount of cutting performance, and it cuts very good. You can get up nice and close to the blade for push cuts. And yeah, it just works so good. In and out of the pocket, works so good. I do like this clip just a little bit better in and out of the pocket, and I'm going to show you why here in just a second. But I like the other one a little bit better in the hand, but in and out of the pocket, it works great. So good clip for in the pocket. I do like the clip on this one a bit better than this one in and out of the pocket, just because it does have the flat screws, versus this one that's a little tighter and has the raised screws. But I like this one better in the hand, because this one's wider, even though this is still comfortable in the hand, and I'm not saying it's uncomfortable. I'm not saying that at all. It's actually, for the size of the clip, I thought it'd be way more uncomfortable than it is. But this one's just a little bit, you know, thicker in the hand, a little more palm filling, and it has the narrowness. You know, both of them don't really go that tall, but this one goes a little bit taller, which leaves more room for the pocket. But, you know, this one's a little bit better in the hand. So, you know, it just, you know, kind of, you know, one's better in one way and one's better in another. They're both still great clips. Now, let's talk about some bad things. So, some bad things. This thing's a little sharp right here. It's not that big of a deal. My hands are pretty aggressive, so it doesn't really bother me too bad. Kara said she felt like it was a little pokey because you see how they chamfered this side right here, which feels good in the hand. At least in my hand. Maybe in your hand it might be a little sharp to squeeze there. For mine, it's fine. But when you're unlocking it, it is, you know, you see how thin it is right there. So, you know, if you kind of get used to it and it doesn't really bother you too much after you do it a bunch. But, you know, it is what it is. Next thing, the choil. I did not like the sharpening choil. Cut in my own. Other than that, T6s. And yeah, it's solid. Otherwise, I mean, you guys know how I feel about being able to sharpen a knife and having the life of a knife, you know, be something, meaning where I can continuously sharpen and use my knife. And in this case, I did have to cut in a sharpening choil right off the bat. But I do feel better about it now. So, not that big of a deal, and it was very easy, and you could do that with a file or with a Dremel. The sharpening came out really good. Took a very, very sticky 600 grit edge. Very, very sharp. The steel feels good. I didn't have any problems with the edge retention or nothing. I didn't do any cut tests. I mean, I did cut with it, but I didn't count my cuts or anything like that. But I mean, as far as I can tell, it feels fine. And like I said, in this case, I know that it is for sure S35VN because he sent me the testing on them. But yeah, there you guys go. I hope you guys, I encourage you guys to give these guys some support and encourage good behavior like this from knife companies, because I think, you know, allowing companies to treat us like crap, walk all over us, or to act like they're on some type of pedestal when we are the buyers, and they need to make sure we're happy, and they need to make sure they take care of us when there are mistakes. And in this case, that's what happened, or that's what's happening. So I think it's good to encourage that, and I encourage you guys that if you like what you see here and you like any one of these knives, definitely go show him your support and show him that that as long as a company acts the way he acted in this case, that we'll support them. Let's do some quick size comparisons. Here's the Benchmade bug out. I know a lot of people are saying that this one is a Benchmade clone, and I can see where you get that from. But let me tell you, there's a lot of differences. The feeling of the access lock is completely different. Even the studs where you grab the access lock is different. Thumb studs are different. Clips are different. They feel different in the hand. They cut different. I mean, the geometry is different. The logos are, I mean, there is a lot of differences here. It's the same shape, but there's so many knives that are the same shape. Obviously, you can see a lot of differences too. So, basically the same size though. And then here is the Spyderco PM2. This is butt to butt. You can see the PM2 is quite a bit bigger. And then here is the Benchmade Griptilians, the large one, and here's the small one. It's basically in between the two. It's in between the small, the Benchmade Griptilian. It's basically in between the large one and the small one. So great EDC size for a lot of people. Then here's the Benchmade 940, which you can see is, you know, a bit bigger. So, but I think this is a great purchase. I think around between, I think it's like between $70 and $80. Yeah, between $70 and $80, you're getting a knife that has S35VN, G10, steel frame lock or access lock or liner lock. It's, you know, they carry great, they cut great, they work great, and they just scream knife, and I like that about them. And then, you know, with the company, you know, being so awesome, I think it's definitely a good company to support. But not only that, I think it's a good knife, and for the price, I mean, I think it's great for the pocket. You know, not only does it carry good in the pocket, it also treats your pocket pretty good. So there you guys go. I love you guys. Go check them out. Asher Knives. Peace.